Welcome to Massive Passive Cash Flow, the podcast that guides professionals to financial prosperity. Join our community and let's start building your wealth. Here's your host, Gary Wilson.
Welcome back to the Massive Passive Cash Flow podcast. I'm Gary Wilson, your host, and I'm glad to have you back. If you wouldn't mind doing so, if you haven't done so, please subscribe to the podcast. It's on 30 some odd different channels, all of your favorites, including the biggest, which is Apple, but you choose the one you want. And while you're out there, please visit globalinvestoragent.com. And this is where, if you're an investor, you will find real estate agents who are trained to work with you. And these are not your typical agents. They know how to identify, analyze, and negotiate on and off market deals for you and I. And if you are an agent, you definitely need to visit the site and click on the Learn More button because the market is changing. And I can tell you from experience, this is the perfect way to balance out your model and not just survive, but thrive in a market shift. And not to mention learn how to invest yourself. So in any case, without further ado, we got a great guest today, Will Basta, all the way from Miami via LA. so Will, welcome aboard, man. I'm glad to have you. Been looking forward to this one for quite a while because it's such a great subject,
Yeah, likewise. Thanks for having me. I'm happy to be here.
Yeah. Well, if you wouldn't mind, give us a little bit of background, how you got started in this. Of course, the company's called Ascend. And but how you got started here, where did you come from, location-wise, and how did you get here,
Absolutely. Yeah. So I'm actually originally from upstate New York, but if you go back career-wise, I started my career in the health tech industry. So I was working in the tech industry for close to a decade, building out organizations that are, sub 50, sub 25 employees, wearing a bunch of different hats, obviously, because that's what you do when you're working for a startup. But at the same time, I do draw a lot of parallels between entrepreneurialism and sort of working in that environment, as in you don't know what's going to come around the corner. There's curveballs every day, that kind of thing. So that really started to draw interest from me into looking at other ways and sort of investing on the side, et cetera. And during that period of time, I got involved in Amazon fairly early. I would say about a decade ago. When I got involved, I didn't have immediate success. I was trying to build out my own sort of product. I built out a digital marketing agency on the side, sort of getting involved just in the digital passive income stream game, and had some success on Amazon eventually. And then let me fast forward a little bit past that. If we go to like circa 2017 through 2019 era, that period of time, there was a lot of different organizations popping up that were turning, I'd say, investing in e-commerce as sort of a done-for-you service, where you can invest and not be an expert in the space and have a partner in the space do it for you. My business partner and I sort of realized that, this is popping up everywhere. The business model seems great, but we don't really see any organizations or even hear of any that are effectively executing on this model. So the light bulb hit right there. I said, hey, okay, well, there's a good model out there. It's broken. So let's do a market test. And we invested in 3, I guess, so-called competitors of who we are today. I wouldn't really consider them competitors anymore at this point, but not to throw a jab there, but at essentially what we did is we did that and then unraveled all the inefficiencies in the industry. And that's where, Ascend CapVentures, that's our full name, really was born 3 years from this past February. So we're a little over 3 years now. And essentially what we do is for people that are looking to alternatively invest outside of your traditional real estate and or stocks. We get a lot of real estate investors that like to invest in our business model. We call it digital real estate, but essentially what we do is people come to us as a partner and they pay us an upfront fee. And we essentially build them out a sustainable long-term business on Amazon primarily. And we operate that entire thing for them. And then we split the net profits that we generate for them over that period of time that we're working with them. And we're at the point now we've got over 500 clients. I am in Miami because we just sourced another JV partnership here. We've got 2 exclusive facilities in Dallas, 1 here in Miami, 1 in Michigan, an office in Los Angeles, and millions of revenue for our clients. And it's an exciting time. It's an exciting industry. But yeah, we essentially do alternative investing in the e-commerce space.
Yeah. Well, I love it. The reason we rebranded the podcast probably 2 years ago, maybe 2.5 years ago, is it really is it's not about just being in real estate or just being in the stock market. We call it the massive passive cash flow podcast,
Yeah,
because you should have some diversification. And the
of
way the world
course.
is now, yeah, the world of information technology, you're right? You don't have to be an expert at the product or service you're involved in. You do have to have some business acumen, some business sense. I mean, that's just true with
Yeah,
anything. I mean,
yeah,
yeah, dentist provides dental services, but they also have to be a master of business skills and talent. So, but this, I've always been fascinated with this, and one of my best friends, a little bit north of you, up in the Calabasas area. Um, the it's a husband and wife team, and she's
yep,
what's called a fixer in LA when it comes to movie scripts. And these are grade A movies, the kind you and I'd see in the theaters. They
yeah,
give
yeah.
her to fix little things. Well, she just stumbled across this thing where she found an organic, it's a makeup brush that's made of organic materials, very
Interesting.
specific, very nichey. And her husband said, "Yeah, I think we can sell this." And they started their business on Amazon, and the rest they say is history. So
Yeah,
pretty amazing stuff. But
right.
that wasn't their background. I mean, her husband's
Yeah,
a musician, so. But it just goes to show you, anybody that's looking for something to complement what you're doing. I'm all about building business, but it
right.
doesn't just have to be their traditional brick and mortar. So let's dig a little deeper.
Yeah,
What what are some of the when you first got started? What was
yeah.
your product or service, and then kind of step us through the realization or your kind of awakening, if you want to call it that, where you know what, I can take this what we figured
Yeah,
out and
yeah.
share it with others.
Yeah, I mean, there's my business partner. We have a successful supplement business on Amazon as well. I have a couple random products that I've developed in the past, and I really started the success that we started was really in the wholesale side of the business. So buying bulk and volume quantities and getting a volume discount with that, and then flipping it on the actual platform at a margin.
Mhm.
And during that period of time, on top of that, I was building a lot of connections within the space, whether it be, supplier connections throughout the US and even abroad, to just teams that know the back end of the platform in a really more detailed manner. And so when we knew we could do it better, it was more of, okay, well, essentially we have the pieces of the puzzle and we know what's not being done right. A lot of these companies didn't have their own warehouse facilities. They were outsourcing that, which at the end of the day is going to lead to not being as competitive a lot of the times based on a lot of different factors. I mean, in most cases, not every single case, as in your margins will get sliced into, you're using third-party logistics companies that are essentially charging a lot per package. And every time it goes through an extra hand, that takes away from what you can profit on when you purchase a product, right? And so, and also, you can just go back in both Jeremy, my business partner, and I's career, and said, we've built businesses to some extent before, and we know what it's like to run businesses with clients as a service. And this is, essentially what we're doing is we're building multiple of these businesses, we're replicating them multiple times, and it's in a win-win manner. And I used to come from a company in the tech industry, where this is obviously a completely different thing, but we had a program that was performance based with our clients. And I've always believed in that kind of model if it fits with what you're offering. So essentially that's what this is. And that's what really stood out. It's like when we produce, our clients win and then we win. And so we're incentivized to grow the business on behalf of them, for them. And while we do that, we're just going to keep making more profit. So it's a true partnership in that sense. And that business model as a whole just really stood out in general. And then how we can, in a industry that, Amazon is booming, e-commerce is booming. It's only 20% of the retail market right now is actually online transactions, which is roughly 20%, which is shocking to me. But NASDAQ predicts it's going to be upwards of 90 to 95% by 2040. I mean, you're getting a piece of, if we talk about the term digital real estate, you're getting a piece of Amazon's real estate, of the e-commerce platform. You're getting a piece of that real estate, just like the internet boom in the 90s. If you had sourced a couple domains, that's it. That's digital real estate in its own fact. It's commodity online, right?
Right.
And so that's what's beautiful about this, is that we knew, okay, a lot of these companies are focusing on Amazon as let's just click passive income. They're not thinking about the long term. And so we wanted to take it to the next step further and say, hey, let's build out a program that's going to generate passive income for clients and have supplementary income. But let's have a real focus on the longevity of it and having it appreciate over time and value over time. And and what comes with that is making sure you have all the right pieces of the puzzle, whether it's a model that's not just wholesale, building out brands. We sort of combine all of them into one. And that's what makes our clients' Amazon businesses actually assets that are really increasing in value tremendously week over week and year over year. And so having that kind of approach, also thinking about it in a sustainable manner, just really changed and pioneered how this done for you kind of service can be in this industry. And I'd say that we are the first ones that really looked at it that way. Now you have a couple other companies out there that are, talking in that, with that kind of lingo, but I'm not sure exactly if they're doing it the same way. But I think that really changed the game on looking at e-commerce as actually an asset class, as opposed to just, oh, let's build a quick business here and it might not last a year and I'll make some passive income quickly and that's it, on to the next,
Yeah. Yeah, I agree 100%. Well, what are some of the what are some of the top categories of what people actually, what's moving, just things have changed. I mean, my gosh, we've gone from a booming economy, pandemic to now we have inflation. It's just
Yeah, it's a great question. There's always going to be products that, I mean, like the reason why if I take us a couple steps back, if you look at, Q4 of this past year in 2022, Amazon still grew 8% over the year before. And so the reason why I'm bringing that up is because, we aren't just selling what people want. We were selling necessities, detergent, food, automotive stuff, things that you need regardless of what's going on in the economy. And people impulsively will buy online, and a lot of them will, instead of driving 10 minutes to their local Walmart, Amazon, if you have a Prime membership, especially, you get it in 2 days or next day, or even same day sometimes. Right. And so it's not reducing people purchasing things like that at all by any means. Right. And so categories that are growing, overall categories is probably wellness category is growing tremendously. Food within Amazon is growing huge. That's a huge category. On Walmart, automotive is growing tremendously on Walmart. I mean, there's categories galore when it comes down to all of this, but at the end of the day, if we look at it in like an economic state, it's categories that it's household items, things that you need that are part of everyone's life, daily life, that are constantly growing. I mean, you have the biggest category is going to be like electronics and stuff like that, but we're not in that space really because A, it's very, very saturated, and B, it doesn't really hit the tone of what I'm talking about right now. But yeah, if you narrow it down, I would say, say one of our clients started today and we look at their business in 6 months, they're going to be selling cereal. They're going to be selling, basic, Windex. We license brands that not everyone can sell too. Kellogg cereal, certain things like this of which you need to be unrestricted on the platform and you need to have an exclusive license to be able to sell. And that's how we get exclusivity, and that's how our clients become competitive.
Yeah. Well, I appreciate that. And soon to come, it's always been not an issue, but like what's going to happen with real estate is Amazon will get real estate. And the rumor started several years ago. I don't know if that's still, being discussed, but I can see it absolutely happening. And you've already got the ecosystem for it. It's another commodity. So I don't know how that'll shape up or play out. I know now you can buy. We've always had REITs, real estate investor trust, but now we have fractional ownership. There's companies where you can put in a certain bit of amount of money and own a piece of several different real estate offerings, and just amazing stuff. And I can see Amazon. And I don't know, have you heard any rumblings about that anywhere in the network?
Not as of recently, but sort of a side topic on that, which is sort of intriguing because it's part of what we're looking at future wise is sort of global expansion, because Amazon's expanding globally, obviously, and for us, like if you're a seller and a client of ours, we want to make sure that you can sell into the number one Amazon markets, which actually is in the US. The number one growing market in Amazon is Canada, and then you have UK, you have Italy, Germany, and the US. Those are the top 5. But funny thing, I was actually, an old university friend of mine actually worked for Amazon a few years ago. This is less than a few years ago. It was 2 summers ago. And I remember him telling me that Amazon, his job specifically was to source land for Amazon prime warehouses, right, throughout Europe. And it's a little bit different when an American company like Amazon is trying to go in there and just place warehouses left and right. It's a lot more restrictive, right? And they were hemorrhaging between 30 and $50 million a month simply because they didn't have enough warehouse for products and the demand in terms of Amazon's growth in the EU. And so I don't know what that data is right now, but to me, that always sort of stood out. It just shows like eventually they're going to get there. And Amazon EU is huge. And so there's so many different market opportunities when Amazon expands. And with that also is there's just facilities in general. I mean, he was talking about how they are trying to work with other, specifically in Germany and stuff, like purchase a lot of different facilities out there. And just the land means so much for them. But that's also a thing that holds back because that's all part of the supply chain and how they can become successful. To me, that just really stood out and sort of rings a bell on that kind of aspect. But
yeah, well, I'll tell you what. You mentioned data, so I've got to ask my background. I have a degree in computer science and worked with NASA and then mergers and acquisitions in the banking world, things like that. So data has always been a big part of my business model. But how do you leverage I guess pretty historic data when it comes to your client's performance and what in projecting or predicting what moves to make that kind of thing? Is that what's available? How do we get that?
Yeah. So there's a lot of different, if I had my one of my directors on, they probably can peel back the layers a little bit further here, but I can speak pretty surface level on where this actually can go. I mean, there's historical company data. So what is the performance of our clients over time with products, right? There's aggregate data on that we leverage. There's predictive data on what we see is going to be trending. What are people searching for that you can pull? Or is there an uptrend in some kind of category as of recently, right? Mm-hmm. And there's seasonal data. And then there's just basic historic data of what sells no matter what time of the year it is, et cetera, right? And has not flatlined, that has been consistent. So when we source products and look for products for clients, we are doing a mix of all of it. It depends on a lot of different factors. But especially when we're building up brands and stuff, we're looking at what has trended, what is trending, what sells during this time of the year really, really well, what is going to sell, in Q4 very, very well. I mean, it's as simple as like the weather gets nice out, you see patio furniture start doing well in April, right? But then you have the data that's getting pulled out behind that on the trending kind of thing. And so when it comes down to it, some are more risky to lean on than others. And that's the whole point of mitigating risk, because you sort of combine all of them in one aggregate and you look at, okay, now what do we have that we can actually source from this manufacturer and supplier? And then what is our client, what kind of capital do they have to inject into their business, and how old is their business? Those are like the top three things I would say that we combine. There's a lot more to it than that, but essentially that's what's going to define when we make a purchasing decision for a client that's going to leverage where those margins are and also what the competitive landscape is.
Yeah. Well, I love it. And now we're sort of related to that. Let's say you've got a business. I mean, it could be, and I just want to really open this up to the listeners, because I want you to think, if you're listening, listeners out there, think exponentially, think outside the box. So if you're a dentist, for example, chances are there's a product that you can provide to people through Amazon, even your services. I mean, chiropractic, engineers that have consulting businesses, you could create a how-to guide to analyze an HVAC system without having to spend. There's all kinds of ideas, but so if somebody has a successful business already on Amazon, what would automation do for them?
Yeah.
We'll be right back with the Massive Passive Cash Flow podcast after I invite you to Monday Night Live. Every Monday night, 7 p.m. Eastern, I teach a class without fail for you on subjects ranging from flipping to buying rentals, managing rentals, wholesaling, commercial, creative purchasing techniques, analyzing properties, identifying properties, hundreds and hundreds and hundreds of subjects. And if you are a licensee, if you have a real estate license, you should definitely tap in, because there are a lot of investor agents also in the class. Many of them are on the global investor agent team. So you can learn from them, as well as from me, how to actually work with investors correctly and profitably. All right, we'll see you Monday night. The link is in the show notes. Go ahead and register. We'll get right to the Massive Passive Cash Flow podcast.
Yeah, so there's a couple of different ways. So if we look at like all of our clients, I've got 500 plus clients, all different backgrounds. Majority of them actually come to us without any knowledge or anything successful, and they come from all different backgrounds, whether it be real estate, whether it be the financial sector, retirees, veterans, school teachers. The commonality is people they're financially comfortable and they're just looking to diversify, right? But that being said, most of them have zero experience on Amazon. You don't have to have any with us because we will build everything out from scratch, the product research, all that kind of stuff. But we do have some people that come to us with, I'd say somewhat of a passion project or a direction they want to go with their business, which is totally fine if we are building out a private label product and we can run with it. If they already have a business that's established, the benefit of us essentially is the scalability aspect and the infrastructure you're getting with it. You're essentially franchise. I mean, you're partnering with an organization that has, 100 plus years combined experience in this industry with a massive infrastructure, which reduces cost across the board and essentially accelerates them into the Amazon ecosystem in under a year to be a top competitor, right? You have 3 million sellers on Amazon in North America, roughly. Partners that work with us, you can shave that off and make it $750,000 that you're really competing against within a year, based on simply the fact that we have a massive team that is running all this, all the data, multiple softwares, and all these supplier and direct to manufacturer connections that can get you in front of the line to even just a basic manufacturer to manufacture your own product, or one that is actually manufacturing and generally would push it to a supplier who then would push it to a wholesaler who then would push it to you if you were doing this yourself, when we can actually go direct to manufacture, get that product license, and then sell it directly on Amazon, which means you have 3 less people in the supply chain pot, which means your margins are anywhere between 5 to 15% higher on what you can purchase. And another thing I want to touch on too is when you're scaling the business, considering we have these many investors, I mean, we'll have some suppliers that say, hey, in order to buy from us, you have to drop $500,000, right?
Okay.
The beauty about working with us is we have plenty of clients who are not willing to drop $500,000 on to a supplier, but they're willing to drop 10, 15, 20, maybe 30 to get a great deal. And so we pool our investors together. They each get their own SKU. They get the volume discount applied as if they dropped $500,000, and everyone sort of wins in that case with a higher margin. And so there's a lot of strategies under the hood where we're putting our investors together and they're getting the benefit as if they're spending more money, but they're actually not, which I think is an awesome aspect of sort of working with an automation partner like us.
Yeah. One other thing too is, we're talking about people that are already on Amazon. But let's take somebody that's maybe not even on Amazon. They have a product or service. If they go on Amazon and use your services, it seems to me like it'd be pretty easy for them to add to their portfolio of offerings. If they've got dental implants, maybe they could offer. Is that? Am I being kind of naive here? Or is it?
No. We've had plenty of clients that have came to us that have had either a successful business outside of Amazon, but online, like they're selling some kind of product and they want us to run with what they have and then expand the catalog of offerings, which is something we can totally do as well. We have an expansive private label side of our business, which is essentially brand building and manufacturing. So that's a whole other aspect. We take on unique projects a lot. I'd say it's about 10 to 15% of our clients. Most clients just come to us with a clean slate and we started building a business from scratch. But yeah, that is 100% doable. We will obviously determine whether it makes sense ahead of time. We don't just take on everyone in that sense, because you have to do the research and make sure that there's capability to expand upon something and it's going to be worth the time and the money from both our side and theirs. But yeah, that's definitely an option as well.
Okay, cool. Well, let's if you could, I want to talk about the mindset of an entrepreneur, but before I go there, I know you've got a lot of clients and it would be inappropriate to mention people by name and business, but can you think of an example of a real good case study? Because I know how business is. It's things It's like the space. I used to work when I worked at NASA. We had a saying, which is the space shuttle is always going off course. Our job is to keep going back on course. So,
Yeah.
so having said that, same thing in business. But can you think of an example or a case study, one of your favorite clients, where things really went like, hey, this worked according to plan, maybe exceeded expectations. And I want to get everybody kind of see themselves in that situation, because I want
Yeah.
people to take advantage of this,
Yeah, absolutely. There's plenty of good case studies. I'm going to give you one that the reason why I'm bringing this one up is because it was an earlier client. And I just remember this because obviously when we were a little bit smaller, I was more in touch directly with clients. I had the ability to actually do that. I wasn't spread as thin. But that being said, this client invested in a $40,000 Amazon package, which is one business with us, with the mindset of having a portfolio down the line. The way that we actually run these businesses is you invest for an infrastructure franchising fee, and then you're the financial driver of the business, and we do everything else. So you need working capital, essentially to spend on products of which you're going to get paid back biweekly by Amazon, and then reinvest it in the business to the extent or the degree that you like. And their mindset was perfect. The perfect mindset coming to us is, you don't have to do this, but essentially is to not take any money out of the business for year one is what we recommend, and to keep putting it back in, because that's only going to compound and have a better effect into year two, right? If you're taking all your profits and you're putting it back into more products that are profitable, obviously that's a win all around. And we don't really recommend anyone investing with us that's trying to pull money out of it early, because it's just not going to help the longevity and the long-term results. So this client invested $40,000. Our average break-even point from the date of the first sale is roughly 12 to 14 months. I've seen as early as 8, and I've seen as late as 16 months, and that's dependent on a bunch of factors, obviously. This client broke even on their 11th month directly, but about 2 months prior to that, when I say break even, I mean literally their net profits hit $40,000 within the first 11 months, right? Which is great if you think about a lot of different investments on what they're actually spending, right? It's a break-even point under 12 months. Prior to that, though, when the success was starting to hit, I'd say 70 to 85%, and this is true, it's exactly what happens. 75 to 80% of your actual investment, the revenue of it actually hits the second half of the first 12 months. So month 6 to 12, right? And so around month 5 is when they started to hit $3 to $4 grand profit per month. Where I'm trying to get at here is they expanded their portfolio to a second business before they even broke even, because they saw the direction it was going. And the benefit of building out, we talked about mitigating risk here. It's the same thing within e-commerce itself as a whole, right? People have a lot of money. It's not just buy one Amazon business. You should have a portfolio of them, right? The second business that they bought was, they wanted an emphasis on private label, which is essentially us building out just a brand for them. So a different business model, but somewhat similar at the same time. We fast forward to where we are today. They've got 4 businesses with us. They've got 8 different private label products. So they have an entire portfolio of private label products spread across all 4 different stores. And they have made probably so close to 10x what they've actually invested in under 2.5 years, which is obviously huge, right? I'm not saying everyone hits this at this time. They started pretty early with us too. But the reason why I look at this as a great use case is because every single business that they invested in broke even earlier than what we project. And so it's always great to under promise and over deliver, right? That's an awesome way to do it. And when a client hits that marker before it should, literally on every business investment that they've had with us, that's your ideal client right there. And that's your ideal testimonial. They've done testimonials for us before as well. And now if you look at where this brings up to a lot of relevancy right now, because when you want to exit these businesses, if you want to, why having a portfolio is great is because you can keep a couple for passive income and you can sell the others, right? And where I don't have an exact valuation of where 2 of them are actually worth, but he actually spoke to us a few weeks ago, and now he wants us to do a valuation directly on those businesses and see if we can push them out, because there's a huge market for established businesses that are I'd say 24 months at minimum or later. And he's probably going to be selling, considering there's private label attached to it, somewhere between 5 to 10x his net earnings annually on those. And so this is a great use case because he's built 4 businesses with us, or we built 4 businesses for him, and he's going to keep 2 of them, and he's going to sell 2 of them for probably another 5x at minimum of what he invested in initially. So, I mean, that's your ideal, that's your perfect client, perfect use case. Obviously, if we talk about, there's situations that aren't always playing out exactly like that as business, right? But the way that we build our businesses for clients is we actually do guarantee their upfront investment. And so if someone invests with us, at minimum, if they don't make that back contractually, we will buy back their business for the difference of which they did not make it back. And so it's secure in that sense. And it does take away risk from people, because I understand investing alternatively outside of your traditional investments is a scary thing. There is high risk, high return, and people are familiar with Amazon, but we like to take that risk and wash it away by guaranteeing that investment, knowing that the data that we have, we can actually produce these kind of results in that time frame.
Yeah. Well, I just like the fact that you can be truly passive. I mean, I know, I've been involved with a lot over the years. And when I left the corporate world, built since then 7 businesses, and it's a lot of work. And, more recently started getting to more passive investing, where I'm not directly, like real estate was always hands-on. I own the property directly, and it's like a business, you got to manage it. So now I can do it passively. And I like this because I can simply, and I guess it's true for anybody in any walk of life, if you have investable capital, and as always, guys, remember one of our famous sayings is, never invest something that you can't afford to lose. You don't invest for bread and butter. You have investable dollars, but with this, it truly sounds like it. I imagine people want to look and see what businesses are most likely to succeed. There's some analysis there, but once you're done, they provide the funding, and you guys take it and run with it, right?
That's essentially it. I mean, we have clients we never ever chat to because they don't reach out, right? They pay their invoice monthly. The invoice is only based on the profits that they've made and our percentage of what they would owe us based on the investment tier that they're in. And there are some clients that want to check in constantly, and that's just based on their own decision and how they want to do it, because we have all the analytics dashboards provided for them. We have their own portal for inventory of where they see things are going. We're managing, after the first month, we are managing 99.9% of everything. The only responsibility for the investor is to make decisions later on if they want to expand upon their current investment, which we will help with. And on top of that, obviously handle their own taxes, the basic stuff on that side, and be their own financial driver and manage their actual finances that are getting injected and deployed into this business model. Other than that, everything else is done by us. And so, it's really up to the investor on how high touch or low touch they like to be. You can really have either or.
Cool. Well, I tell you, I know we're probably getting close on time here, but I want to touch on like the mindset, what, like the character traits. I'm sure everybody, well, I shouldn't say everybody, for the most part, people are entrepreneurial that you work with. They're entrepreneurs by design. Even if they spend a lifetime in the corporate world, they've got that entrepreneurial gene. But can you expand on that? Like, what's your avatar personality wise, like a profile,
In terms of the client base?
Yeah, the investors, people like me to want to be passive,
Yeah, I mean, honestly, it's pretty, and I hate to sort of brush with such a broad stroke here, but it really comes down to just, like I mentioned a little bit earlier, it's people who want to tap into a $5 trillion industry that are interested to doing that, but they're not an expert in the space and they want to partner with an expert. They're already financially comfortable. This could be their first investment or their 50th investment. That's not necessarily something that matters, but ideally it's someone who's invested before and is comfortable with investing, right? So they understand what it's like to see something flourish. We get a lot of real estate investors. That's a huge one right there. And then just being financially comfortable and understanding that this is not something that happens overnight directly, but it's going to produce great returns and it's going to appreciate in value, and understanding those aspects of the business and what this is coming. And that aside, if you have any one of those 3 characteristics combined, you could you could not be an entrepreneur at all. You could just be someone who works on Wall Street. You could be someone who just, essentially works in the tech industry, who's an engineer. You've never invested or built anything yourself, but you want to be an entrepreneur. This is the first step, actually, an easy way to dip your feet into this and not have to take up all the responsibility and have success there. And it might open doors for other opportunities down the line. So,
yeah. Well, I love it. I'm definitely intrigued, and I'm certainly going to follow because I'm going to participate myself. one of the things I want to talk, I always like to talk about, especially with stuff like this, is, well, how do you see things evolving going forward? Now we've got, Web 3.0 and the metaverse
Yeah.
technology being perfected and blockchain processing. And I'm sure Amazon, Bezos is probably right on the cutting edge of all this, but any indication of how that's going to change Amazon? Will they have a more of a metaverse type environment online?
It's a good question. At the end of, you're going to have your drones dropping packages off, which is already sort of starting and stuff like that. But the way that I see, it's very hard to think too far ahead on this, because I do know that regardless, majority of these packages that are being delivered via Prime are coming from third-party sellers, and on Amazon's e-commerce platform, most of the revenue is from people like our clients, right? And so they're safe in that sense, in terms of sourcing the products. How it's delivered and how it's purchased, that could evolve immensely. But at the end of the day, the physical products will still be there. It's just how they're deployed to the end customer. Where I see the future is, and the way that I look at it with the way our business is as sort of managers of, seller accounts, and I touched on this earlier, is really just the global expansion aspect, because there's a lot of different countries that are, behind the US in general, that in 10 years will be where we are right now when it comes down to Amazon, right? And so we like to look at things that way, and also where the manufacturing aspect is. And I look at Latin America as essentially the new China when it comes down to trade and manufacturing. And so we have our hands in a lot of different connections over there as well. When it comes down to where we can start manufacturing and not have to worry about sort of phase China out a little bit, or Asia in general, just because it's actually not that much cheaper when you think about a lot of different things and how you can approach supply chain and international trade, right? But that's sort of where my mind is when I look at this business. There is also the idea of selling digital products, which we're sort of looking at right now for clients, where, there are digital products that are going to be emerging a lot more, but it's a lot farther ahead, and where it's going to affect sellers, I think, is not necessarily something we need to be thinking about yet. Maybe in 5-10 years, that conversation would make a little more sense. But again, who the hell knows?
I know.
That's the one thing too, so.
Yeah, the speed of innovation. It's just rapid. It continues to increase ever so rapidly, and that's the stuff that we think is cutting edge today, in our children or grandchildren will be, light years beyond that. Just you think about what's happened since the early 1900s. The first mechanized flight, Kitty Hawk with the Wright brothers, right? And then by 1969, we're landing somebody on the moon. It's just
it's pretty insane. Yeah.
And you look at computers and cell phones. In our lifetime, there's been so much innovation and development. And I know that there's technology out there. Then when you add in artificial intelligence, and they had that back in the 80s when I got my degree in computer science, but it was very rudimentary. Nowadays, it truly is. It's the software is truly a learning software. There's even debate now in legal circles. Does AI have the right to sue in court? I'm thinking, holy crap.
That's interesting.
And you think about it, I'm not saying I'm for it or against it. I just blown away by the fact that we're even having these discussions,
Damn. Yeah, that's exactly. I don't even know how to even think about that.
Yeah. So AI is going to play a part of this, but the thing I like about this is, I think if we get in now, that we'll be on the front end, we'll be the early adapters as these technological innovations start to have an impact on the industry. And I think I just believe that Amazon is not going to be overtaken. They're going to be part of the process of the.
They're going to be part of it.
Absolutely.
I couldn't agree more. Yeah.
So, well, I'll tell you what, I know we're kind of going past, we try to keep it a half hour, but this has been a fascinating subject. I hope everybody's got the wheels spinning here. How can people get a hold of him? If they want to work with you? For me personally, guys, I'm speaking for everybody. For me, I just like the fact that I can look and see what are the possible products and services that have the greatest potential benefit using the data that Will and these guys have, guys, and then we can invest passively. Sorry to kind of ramble there, but how can people get a hold of you? Is there a protocol? What's the next step?
Of course. Yeah. So our website is www.ascendcapventures.com. That's ASCEND CAP, CAP Ventures. CapVentures.com. You can book a call there, find a lot more about how we do things on the website as well. Our YouTube channel is Ascend CapVentures. A lot of these videos get posted up as well, just informational stuff, presentations, short form videos. And then our Instagram handle is Ascend_CV. That's Cat Victor. And essentially, you can book a call there with someone from our partnership team, one of our advisors. That call is not salesy at all. We just want to learn about what you know about the industry, what you're interested in, what your background is, see if there may be a fit to really continue the conversation. And then you can sort of take it from there. But we do it in an educational format. And, if there's a fit, there's a fit. If not, worst case scenario, you're learning more about how we do things and there might be a fit in the future. But that's how you can reach us. You can always DM us and we can set something up from there.
Cool. So everybody remember Ascend CapVentures.com. And just go from there and keep me posted on your progress and success. And it will, I think I speak for a lot of people and I say, thank you for spending your time to do this. It's an amazing business model. And I'm grateful for you being here and happy you've had so much success. And it's no wonder, 500 plus clients and hopefully this will help you grow too. So,
Yeah, thank you, Gary. Honestly, it's been a pleasure. Hopefully I can come on again sometime in the future. We can catch up, but yeah, I appreciate you having me. It's been great.
Yeah. Well, actually for me, I'm probably looking at second half of June I've been looking for something like this. So let's stay in touch. And then
Absolutely.
Yeah. And for everybody listening, sendcapventures.com. And while you're out there online, please remember this, leave a review for the podcast. It helps everybody. Obviously this is free for you. And all we ask is 60 seconds, put in a review because that's sort of our gas or our fuel that keeps the podcasting going. It's really important that you do that. We really appreciate it too, by the way. And before you leave the internet, go back to globalinvestoragent.com. I'm going to speak to the real estate agents right now. Listen, just click the learn more button, set up a call, come to our class. We teach class every Monday night, totally free, and don't just be a single threaded real estate agent. Add this to your model, right? Work with people who are entrepreneurs, business owners who like to invest, and you can expand your business model personally too while you're at it. So you guys take care of yourselves. God bless you and your families, and we will see you on the next Massive Passive Cash Flow podcast.
Thanks for listening to this episode of Massive Passive Cash Flow. Be sure to go to realestatewithgarywilson.com to join our community and start building wealth today.